Ever since DBDR first started getting popular, there's been a lot of others that have tried to make a similar style of content on YouTube. You know, the whole story time, Bl4ckpill slash doomer commentary type of video, usually with some gameplay footage in the background. Most people that have attempted to make this kind of channel have completely failed. Most have not even come close to getting monetized. So how is it that some people like Babbling Loner or myself have managed to have some success with this format, while most others just never get off the ground? Well, in this video, I'm going to break it down as simple as possible, exactly what the difference is between someone like Babbling Loner and someone else that makes similar content but only gets at most a couple hundred views per video. I'm going to tell you step by step exactly what you need to do to get as many views as possible as a Bl4ckpill doomer content creator. I'm also going to point out some of the crucial mistakes that I see people in this space making. Oh, and by the way, I will never sell any kind of course or one-on-one coaching or anything like that. I'm just telling you everything I know right here for free because I make money off the AdSense revenue. I'm not trying to rip you off with some BS coaching. I'm not even an expert or anything. I'm just a guy that has a somewhat successful channel in this niche, so I have a pretty good idea of what works and what doesn't. Okay, so first of all, just how much money can you make with a Bl4ckpill YouTube channel? I've heard a lot of bad info out there. I'm pretty sure I remember hearing Drathan say he's actually lost money through his channel, and Rehab Room has an old deleted video where he claimed I think the average earnings are around $2 to $3 per 1,000 views, which is completely wrong. Even 3 years ago, or whenever that video was made, that's still not accurate, so I don't know where he was getting those numbers from, but I can tell you from experience, I make about $5 to $9 per 1,000 views. There's a lot of factors at play, like length of the video. Longer videos earn more money because they can play more ads. The time of year is another thing that affects it. Right now, between Halloween and New Year's, everybody across all of YouTube actually earns more in ad revenue than you would the rest of the year, just because advertisers pay more for the holiday season. But if you make all your videos at least 20 minutes long, and you use gameplay footage in the background that is not Minecraft or Roblox, then you're probably going to be earning at least $4 per 1,000 views, and that's on the lower end. Probably more like $6 on average. If you're young, like you're a teenager and you make these kind of videos, your earnings per 1,000 views is going to be a bit lower just because your audience is probably going to be younger, because generally somebody my age isn't going to give a damn what a teenager has to say about anything. And if YouTube sees that your audience is young, then they're not going to pay you as much. That's just how it works. But if you're in your 20s or older, then you will probably make about $6 per 1,000 views on average. Okay, so let's look at one of the most successful Bl4ckpill channels, Babbling Loner. In October 2025, Babbling Loner had about 220,000 views, and most of his videos are at least 20 minutes long. So if we lowball our estimate at $5 per 1,000 views, then that means he would have made $1,100 in AdSense revenue for the month of October. Now, realistically, I'm guessing he probably made more than that, assuming his videos all have full monetization status, which they might not, I really don't know, but I can say pretty confidently he made at least that much. And I can show you my own stats for October. I had 166,000 views and I made $1,132 from ad revenue. My average revenue per 1,000 views was almost $7, so don't trust anybody that tries to tell you you can only make like $2 per 1,000 views with this type of channel. That's just completely false. Unless you're a teenager making 5-minute long videos with Roblox gameplay in the background, you're almost definitely going to be making more than $2 per 1,000 views. Usually at least 2 times or 3 times that amount. Okay, so you can make more than $1,000 a month with one of these doomer commentary channels, which obviously isn't a replacement for an actual job, but it's not bad, especially if you live with your parents and you don't have a lot of bills, or even if you do live on your own. $1,000 a month extra on top of whatever you make at your regular job, that's not bad. Of course, it can be a lot of work. Like, it's not always easy to think of things to talk about, or, even if you have a good idea for a video, most people aren't really very good at talking about something for 20 to 30 minutes straight while still keeping it entertaining. I'll talk about some things you can do to help you with all that later on, but it's still work. So monetarily speaking, you would probably be better off just getting any regular job. But if you just want some extra cash and you don't need a lot, and you think making videos might be something you'd enjoy, then try it out. You can make some money. Maybe you can make a pretty decent amount. I mean, look at Rehab Room. His channel is a little bit different. He doesn't really talk about his own life that much, but it is a Bl4ckpill commentary channel. In October 2025, Rehab Room had 580,000 views. Using $4 per 1,000 views as an estimate, that's $2,320 for the month. I think he probably made more than that, but some of his videos are shorter, like only 10 to 15 minutes long, and he has a foreign accent, so he's more likely to have a larger portion of his audience also being foreign. The geographic location of your audience is another thing that determines how much AdSense revenue you get paid. So that's why I'm using $4 per 1,000 views as the estimate instead of $5 or $6. And this is only talking about AdSense revenue. Rehab Room gets enough views per video, he probably could get a sponsor. He wouldn't get a good sponsor since his content is controversial, but he could probably get some kind of sponsor if he really wanted to, and then he would make more money. But I'm really not sure the quality of the type of sponsor he'd be able to get, if it would actually be worth it. But yeah, the truth is, you're not going to be making a living with this type of content, but you could make some money. Whether that's enough to be worth it to you, that just depends on how much you like making videos and thumbnails and everything else that goes along with it. For the most part, I enjoy the whole process. The thing I like most is just that I get to put my ideas out there, or maybe just talk about what's been going on in my life, and I actually have people that listen to me, which is not something I have in my regular life. So I would still be doing this even if it didn't pay anything. Now, if I was starting my channel right now from scratch, here's exactly what I would do. And by the way, this is pretty much what I did do about 2 years ago when I first started this channel. Okay, so you need to make like 5 to 10 videos before you ever post a single video. No matter what, it's gonna take a few weeks for the algorithm to pick your channel up and start promoting your videos, but you can give it a jump start by launching your channel with at least 5 videos at the same time. The reason this works is because one of the most important metrics the algorithm uses to decide how much it's going to promote your videos is total watch time across your entire channel. Okay, so if you have one video to start with and let's say that video is getting an average watch time of 10 minutes for each viewer, well, that's pretty good, but that's only one video. If you launch with that video plus 4 others, then some of the people that watched one video are also going to watch some of your other videos. So now your channel's not just getting an average watch time of 10 minutes from each viewer, because some of those viewers are watching multiple videos. So the average watch time per viewer across your channel as a whole is going to be more than that 10 minutes from just the one video. You can also think about it like this. If you randomly come across a video from a channel you've never seen before, and you watch it and you enjoyed it, you're probably going to want to watch some other videos from that channel, right? But you might not actually go to that channel's page to look for more videos. A lot of people never do that. They just wait for another video from that channel to pop up on their homepage or in the sidebar. So if you launch with multiple videos, most everyone that watches one of your videos will be recommended at least one of your other videos. But if you roll out those same videos slowly over time, like releasing one a week or something like that, then even after 5 weeks or whatever, when all the videos are released, the algorithm is less likely to recommend your other videos to someone that just watches one video, because it already has data for your channel that tells it most people only watch one video on this channel, because you only had one video to start with. So that was the only option people had. But if you launch with, say, 5 videos, then the algorithm will recommend other videos of yours to almost every single viewer at first, because it doesn't have data for your channel yet. It has to recommend your videos to test, to find out how likely viewers are to watch multiple videos. So that's a bit of a long-winded explanation, but you don't really need to understand how it works. Just know that if you start your channel with multiple videos releasing at the same time, it's going to give you a big jump start. I actually released my first 5 videos over the course of like a week, I think like 5 or 6 days. I don't think it makes a big difference as long as your first videos are all releasing in a very short time frame. But I think the best play is just to release them all simultaneously at the exact same time. Now, here's another neat little trick that will also help jumpstart your channel. One of your first videos should reference another popular doomer creator in the title and/or thumbnail. Look at my channel. The 5th video I ever released was What DBDR Gets Wrong About Looks Theory. That was the first video of mine that really took off and started getting decent views. It was my breakout video, you could say. And even to this day, it's still one of my most viewed videos. And that one video is responsible for probably 100,000 views or more across all my other videos. And that's not an exaggeration. If anything, that's an understatement. That's just how powerful this technique is. The way it works is people found that video when they were searching for DBDR's channel. Then the algorithm sees that, okay, so people that have a history of watching DBDR are also watching this video from Loser Maxing. So the algorithm then promoted my video on the homepage or on the sidebar for more of DBDR's regular viewers. And a lot of those people clicked on my video because it's about DBDR and the title is intriguing. So imagine if you're a big fan of DBDR and you see this video on the sidebar, What DBDR Gets Wrong About Looks Theory. It makes you think like, I usually agree with DBDR. What does this guy think that DBDR is wrong about? So it just snowballs, and the algorithm keeps recommending my video to more and more of DBDR's audience. And then, because so many of them are watching my video, now the algorithm thinks, Well, if regular viewers of DBDR's channel are watching this video on Loser Maxing's channel, then maybe they'd also want to watch other Loser Maxing videos. So the algorithm started recommending more of my videos to DBDR's audience. And that worked well because my videos were all kinda similar to DBDR's videos. Like, we talk about similar subject matter, and it's the same format of commentary over gameplay footage. And yeah, it actually worked so well that once that video started taking off, at some point the DBDR subreddit had more new threads being made about me than they were making new threads about DBDR. And this is the subreddit for DBDR. And they weren't all just talking about that one video. People were talking about different things from several of my videos. And then DBDR did his first live stream, which I missed, but then he did another live stream that I did manage to catch. And so many people were commenting, asking him, "What do you think about loser maxing? Have you heard of loser maxing? Comment on loser maxing." Which he didn't do, by the way. I don't think he was actually even reading the chat. But yeah, the technique works. It works really well if you do it right. But you do need to actually have something interesting to say. It's not going to work as well if you put, say, Babbling Loner or Rehab Room in your title, but then you don't actually say anything interesting. You do have to actually have something to say. Okay, so now let's talk about thumbnails and titles. I will talk a bit about how to actually make the videos themselves, but titles and thumbnails are actually way more important, so I'm going to talk about that first. Okay, so with titles, obviously the title of the video needs to be something relevant to the actual content of what you're talking about in the video, but in my experience, you're usually going to be better off brainstorming for good titles first, and then making videos based off the best titles you come up with. Of course, if you make storytime videos like a lot of my videos where you're just talking about something that happened in your life, then you can't really just come up with the title first. You just have to think of a good title based on whatever you're talking about. I don't have any concrete advice on how to come up with good titles. It's just something you probably get better at over time. I would recommend looking at Babbling Loner's channel for inspiration. Part of the reason he gets so many views is because he's really good at coming up with titles. In fact, I think his titles are so good that it doesn't even matter that much what he uses as the thumbnail. He does put a secondary title on his thumbnails, which is smart, but the actual images and the smaller text on his thumbnails, I don't think most of his viewers even really pay attention to what it is. Honestly, it's just a jumbled mess. It's hard to even tell what's going on in his thumbnails, but it's obviously working. It's working really well. So his thumbnails don't look good from like a graphic design standpoint. They don't follow any of the traditional rules of what makes a good YouTube thumbnail. But yeah, so one thing I want to say about titles and thumbnails, sometimes if a title is good enough, the thumbnail doesn't really matter much. And it works the other way around too. If you have a good enough thumbnail, then the title doesn't really matter. Look at my thumbnail right here. I could have put literally anything for the title of this video, and it still would have got a good amount of views because the thumbnail says it all. But yeah, about thumbnails, any advice you hear about graphic design or advice about thumbnail design from the big YouTube gurus, just ignore that. Just ignore all of that. For these Bl4ckpill doomer videos, the thumbnails that tend to perform well are usually like a jumbled mess. Look at Babbling Loner's thumbnails or DBDR's thumbnails on his Hat Flying channel. You can also look at Rehab Room's thumbnails, although those are a little bit different. Notice that most of these thumbnails, from a graphic design standpoint, they are absolutely horrible. And they break all of the traditional rules. They have small text that's difficult to read, and they often have way too many items to focus on. But for the audience that watches this kind of video, that style of thumbnail obviously works very well. Now, on my channel, usually I actually try to make what could be considered a quote-unquote good thumbnail in the traditional sense, and it works well enough for me. You just gotta experiment to find out what works. Just keep in mind that an aesthetically pleasing thumbnail with good graphic design principles that follows all the rules, that's not always worth the effort, and in fact, that's not always gonna be a good thumbnail at all. These jumbled mess thumbnails probably do better in most cases for this style of content. I don't really know why. I think it has to do with something. I think it just makes people think that you're more authentic if your thumbnail looks like absolute shit, but I don't really know, but I'm just telling you, that's how it is. But here is one thing you need to know about thumbnails. Do not just use an AI-generated image as your thumbnail. A lot of doomer YouTubers do this, and it does not work very well. Look at Bl4ckpill. Most of his thumbnails are just unedited AI-generated images. He does get decent views, actually, because at this point he has a consistent audience, since he does make good content and he's been at this for a while. So yeah, he's built up a consistent audience over time. But because he uses these AI thumbnails, there is a very low ceiling for how many total views he can get on any given video. His most viewed video has less than 7,000 views, which isn't bad, but if he actually made his own thumbnails, I'm pretty sure he would occasionally have a video that gets picked up by a larger audience, but that's just not going to happen with these AI-generated thumbnails. It's just not going to happen. Another example is Millennial Steam. He only uses unedited AI thumbnails. Like, I don't think he's ever made his own thumbnail even once. I get that with his content strategy, he's just trying to pump out as many videos as possible, as quickly as possible, but he has a very low probability of ever growing his audience past the level that it's at now, because he just uses these AI-generated thumbnails. Okay, now let's talk about the content itself, the actual videos on your channel. First of all, do not just use a static image for the visual component of your video. Do not do that. I know that DBDR does that now on his hat flying channel, and this newer channel, Sloth, he does that too, and so far he's getting a lot of views. I mean, he got 89,000 views on one of his videos, but usually, in most cases, just using a static image is a very bad idea. It works for hat flying, that's DBDR's newer channel, because he already has a huge audience of diehard fans. So it just doesn't matter as much for him because people are going to watch his videos no matter what. And it worked for Sloth on that 89,000 view video because that video has a very, very engaging title. A whole lot of people want to see what he's going to say just because of that title. But a whole lot of people just will not watch or listen to a video with a static image no matter what. And also, YouTube's rogue censorship AI might flag your channel for being quote-unquote low-effort repetitive content. Okay, so you can do what you want, but do not be surprised when you only get 15 views per video when there's not even a visual component to your video, and it's just a blank screen, or it's just a still image of your thumbnail throughout the entire video. Okay, so as far as what the actual video should be, you can use gameplay footage like what I do, That's what DBDR used to do when he first got popular, and that's what Babbling Loner does. And by the way, on his old channel, Babbling Loner used to just use static images of a blank screen on a lot of his videos. And he also used to use AI-generated thumbnails a lot of times. I think they were AI-generated. I can't actually look at his old thumbnails right now, but I'm pretty sure, if memory serves me correctly, that's what it was. And yeah, that channel did not perform nearly as well as his new channel. There is another reason for that too, which I'll get into later, but yeah. At the very least, you should use gameplay footage. It's easy to do. You can record your screen with OBS, Open Broadcast Software. It's a free open source screen recording software. Very easy to use. So yeah. And also, it does matter what game you use for your gameplay footage. Do not, under any circumstance, use Minecraft or Roblox gameplay. You will earn less ad revenue per view if you do that, because you will attract a younger audience and advertisers won't pay as much. And the algorithm will probably attempt to promote you to a younger audience at first just because it detects you're using Roblox gameplay. Also, in general, you should not use any two-dimensional games or any mobile games because it's just not very engaging. It looks cheap. It's not entertaining to watch. You might think that nobody actually watches the gameplay anyways, so it doesn't really matter. But I can tell you for a fact that a lot of my viewers do watch my gameplay footage because they comment on it. Like, they comment on specific things that I did in the game. So they obviously are watching. Okay, so I recommend that you use games that are three-dimensional. Open world games work well, like Red Dead Redemption or Grand Theft Auto. First-person shooters are good. Call of Duty commentary videos are a YouTube classic, so you really can't go wrong with Call of Duty. So yeah, just stay away from Minecraft, Roblox, mobile games, and really any two-dimensional games. Now, you can use actual video of you talking to the camera. Look at the channel Life Outrage. He gets pretty good views with the face cam, but here's the thing. In most cases, it is more effort. There's more work involved in editing that kind of video. I guess the trade-off might be that the thumbnails are easier because you can just use a screen cap from the video. But also, I think it could hurt you if you don't have good camera quality. And if you are a true sub 5 to the point that you're legitimately ugly, it's probably not going to work in your favor. Also, just the amount of storage you need to keep backups of your videos is going to be absolutely massive. You'll also need to have a pretty decent PC to actually render your videos if you're doing any editing at all. And of course, if you're going to be talking about anything controversial or you're going to be talking about people you know in real life, then you have to be very careful, okay? People have been fired from their jobs for making content that isn't even controversial. So there is a risk involved when you put your face out there, and it's not guaranteed to pay off. Look at Chadlet Maxing. He shows his face in his videos and puts his face on the thumbnail sometimes, and he gets decent views sometimes, and he's not offensively ugly, and he has high quality camera footage. But all that effort he's putting into his videos doesn't really pay off. I think he would get just as many views if he just used gameplay footage 100% of the time for the entire duration of his videos. I could be wrong, but yeah, I think showing your face can work better than gameplay footage if you do it the right way, but Chadlet Maxing is doing it the wrong way. Life Outrage is doing it the right way. What works well for this doomer-style content is just a static setting, like just sitting there in one singular location talking to the camera. But either way, I do not recommend showing your face starting out because there are risks involved when you do that, And I think usually it's a lot more work. Although if you just film directly on your iPhone or whatever, and you don't do any editing to the audio or anything, then maybe in that case it's actually easier. But yeah, because of the risks and the fact that it might not even be beneficial to show your face, I recommend just starting off with gameplay footage. Gameplay footage is pretty much the standard in this niche, and it's easy to do, so you really can't go wrong. Okay, now let's get to the meat of the content. The audio. The words you're saying in the video and how you're saying them. Okay, so first of all, you don't have to have super high quality audio, but it does need to meet a minimum quality threshold. You can get away with using a $30 USB microphone. Just do some research and make sure you get one with good reviews. I personally use a $250 microphone, but that's just because I'm really into the audio editing aspect of this. It's just something I enjoy doing. But you don't need an expensive microphone. If you have an expensive phone like an iPhone or maybe like a Samsung Galaxy, whatever they call them, then you can just use that for your microphone. A lot of smartphones these days actually have really good microphones. So yeah, you can probably just use your phone. All right, so just a little tidbit on video length. You need to be making your videos at least 20 minutes long. Honestly, the longer the better. Total watch time is probably the #1 metric that the algorithm uses to decide how far to promote your videos. And you are competing against other YouTubers in this same niche, okay? So if I put out a 30-minute long video and Babbling Loner puts out a 26-minute long video, and you put out a 7-minute long video all at the same time on similar topics, your video is not going to get promoted much to the doomer audience because your video cannot possibly have better watch time metrics than me or Babbling Loner with our half-hour long videos. But you do have to be entertaining. It doesn't matter how long your video is if nobody watches it past the 45-second mark because it's just that boring. So you do have to make content people actually want to listen to all the way through. So how do you actually just sit there and talk for 20 to 30 minutes or longer and still keep it engaging the whole time? Well, in my case, I usually can't do that. I don't know how someone like DBDR or Babbling Loner or some others do it. They might just be able to do it all in one take with no script and keep it engaging, but I'm not good at that. I do that sometimes, but usually I actually write out an outline or sometimes a full script. Like right now, believe it or not, I'm reading this off a script. I don't know if you can tell, I'm reading mostly off a script. Now, usually I will ad-lib some even when I'm reading a script. Like the last sentence I said, that was an ad-lib. But yeah, obviously it takes a lot longer to make a video if you're writing out a 3,000 word script. That is about the average for my videos, by the way, about 3,000 words. But for me, if I don't at least have an outline, like some bullet points to go off of, then I just wouldn't be able to do it. It's not easy for most people to just speak off the dome for half an hour. Or I guess for me, it'd be more like off the cone as opposed to off the dome. I have a small cranium circumference, if you didn't know. But anyways, yeah. Even if you're just going to be talking about a real life experience you had, like, I don't know, you're telling a story about the time you tried hitting on the boss's niece at work, you might want to try actually writing it down first, or at least write out some bullet points. I know for me, if I don't write anything down and I just try to go off the top of the head, I'm usually not going to be able to keep it engaging. And by the way, when I talk about keeping it engaging, basically, if you want people to watch or listen to your video all the way through, you have to either be telling an interesting story or talking about something relatable, or if all else fails, you need to be funny. I think one of my biggest strengths is that I am pretty funny sometimes. Sometimes that's intentional, sometimes it's not. And you might disagree. Maybe you don't think I'm funny at all, but look at DBDR, for example. He's a pretty funny guy, and that's one of his biggest strengths. I already know before I click on a new hat flying video, I'm probably going to end up laughing at least a couple times because he's funny. So whatever he's talking about, he's going to make it funny. And that's one of the reasons that myself and a lot of others enjoy watching his videos. Here's some more actionable advice on how to come up with video ideas. Look at my channel or look at Babbling Loner because he's on fire right now, so his channel probably is the best for this. Scroll through his videos, look at his titles, and pay attention to which of his videos got above average views for his channel and which got below average views. Okay, so I'm scrolling through his videos and I see some men have been locked out of dating, 19,000 views. That's above average. We already peaked as a society, 53,000 views. That's well above average. So I see that and now I'm thinking, okay, some men have been locked out of dating. Is that something I can talk about? Do I have any personal stories from my life that illustrate how some men have been locked out of dating? You know, just, is this a topic that I have something interesting to say about? If it is, then I might make a video based on that topic. I might even use the exact same title. I usually would just come up with my own title, but you can literally just steal titles. That works pretty well sometimes. It just depends what it is. Like, I found the title, Getting Left Behind in Life. That's a title I found on Babbling Loner's channel, and I just used that same exact title on one of my videos. Now, in that case, my video didn't really perform that well, but getting behind in life, that's a pretty generic phrase. You can call it plagiarism if you want, but in my opinion, there's really no such thing as plagiarism with titles when it's just like a generic phrase like that. I'm pretty sure even in Hollywood, there are movies with the same title as an already existing movie. And there are songs that have the same title, especially if it's just a generic phrase like that. That's not plagiarism. But either way, usually we're just looking for inspiration here. So I might see Babbling Loner's video, Alejandra, the girl who introduced me to my position on the dating hierarchy. And I see that video performed very well, so now I'm thinking, okay, what experiences have I had in my life that sort of introduced me to my position on the dating hierarchy? And if I do actually have an interesting life experience that fits that topic, then I might make a video about it. In this case, I definitely wouldn't just copy the title word for word because this one is very specific, so that's actually bordering on plagiarism. But that could still be an interesting video. You know, just telling a story about how my one-itis made me realize where I stand. That's an interesting topic. And you could even use a completely different title, but as long as you're capturing that same idea, you'll probably get decent views because that is a very interesting and relatable topic. Okay, so aside from using other channels for inspiration, here's what else you can do. Try to think of the scariest or the most embarrassing or most whatever things that ever happened in your life. So for me, my very first video on this channel, I told the story about the time I got invited to a house party in high school, and then it ended up being my worst nightmare where I ended up standing there with a room full of people just staring at me and laughing at me while some older guy was basically threatening to beat me up. It was a traumatic experience for me because it was like literally the thing I was most worried about happening if I went to a party, and then it actually happened. So I knew that would probably be an interesting story. That would probably be something a lot of people could relate to and a lot of people would find entertaining to listen to. Okay, so try to think of like the most brutally you've ever been rejected, or think of like a time when someone you thought was your friend betrayed you, or something brutally unfair that happened to you. If you have experiences like that, which I'm guessing you probably do if you relate to my content at all, then tell those stories. That is relatable to a whole lot of guys out there. I'm really old. I'm 36 years old now, so I have a lot of life experience to draw from just because I've been living for so long. If you're only 23 or something, you might not have as many stories to tell, but I'm sure there's something from high school maybe that happened to you that might be interesting. So just think about it. Just brainstorm on it for a little bit. You probably have at least a few interesting stories to tell. All right, and one last thing I want to mention. Some of you might know Babbling Loner used to have another channel, but it wasn't nearly as popular. And his content is mostly pretty similar now to what he's always been doing. I already mentioned the fact that he uses handmade thumbnails now, and he uses gameplay footage now. That is part of the reason why he's blowing up now. But there's another big reason for that too. His old channel was shadow banned. And what I mean by that specifically, if you get a community guideline strike on your channel, there is a very good chance that the YouTube algorithm will intentionally limit your reach, meaning your videos just will not get promoted as much as they otherwise would be, just because 2 months ago you had one sentence in one video that the censorship AI determined to be hate speech. So that's the reason why Babbling Loner is just now blowing up with his new channel, even though on his older channel he was already making the same kind of relatable content that he makes now. He had at least one active community guideline strike, so his videos were not getting promoted like they should have been. I've also experienced this personally, and at this point, I truly think if you get a community guideline strike, unless you're just an enormously successful channel like Penguin Z or something, I mean, you don't have to be that large of a channel, but you'd have to be pretty big for it to not impact you. If you get that community guideline strike, just make a new channel. Your old audience will find it if you're making the same style of content, and you would actually have the ability to grow your audience because your new channel won't be shadow banned. You can try to wait it out because, if you don't know, strikes will expire after 90 days as long as you complete the useless little HR quiz they give you. And I think after a strike expires, you won't be shadow banned anymore. I can't say for sure, but yeah, I just wanted to mention that because when you're making Bl4ckpill doomer content like this, watch out, because they love to strike us for seemingly no reason, and don't think you'll ever get any explanation why. They want us off the platform, period. They are not going to explain to you what exactly it is you said that broke the rules. No matter who you end up talking to, if you even can manage to get in touch with anyone in the first place, don't expect an explanation. You're not going to get it, okay? So honestly, I think you're just better off starting an entirely new channel. Okay, so just a quick summary of everything I've been talking about. Have at least 5 videos ready to go when you launch your channel. That'll give you a jump start in the algorithm. Make one of your first videos reacting to or referencing an already known doomer YouTuber. There's at least 5 different channels I've seen where they made a video about me, and that video is their most viewed video on their entire channel. This technique works really well to help you start to build an audience, so definitely do that if you can. Do make sure you're using some kind of actual video in your video. If you just have a black screen or a still image that you're talking over, then you are a lot less likely to get views. I recommend using gameplay footage because it's easy to do and it works, but you can also try showing your face. Sometimes that works really well. Do not use AI-generated thumbnails. You can use AI to generate parts of your thumbnail. I do that sometimes. But do not just generate an AI image of a sad-looking anime guy wearing a hoodie standing in the rain with no text, and then just use that as your thumbnail with no alterations. You are severely limiting your growth potential when you do that. Do write a script or an outline instead of just trying to freestyle off the top of your head. Some people can do it that way, so maybe that'll work for you. But I think for most of us, it's really hard to be entertaining for 20 minutes or more just off the top of your head. Longer videos are better. There's no upper limit. I would say aim for at least 20 minutes, but you can't just talk about nothing or just repeat yourself over and over again just to make the video longer. If it's not entertaining, then nobody's going to watch for more than a few minutes. If you are just going to talk about nothing or just repeat yourself over and over again, then you better be funny. Do use other already popular channels for inspiration for video titles. If an idea got lots of views for someone else, and you have a similar story from your life that you could talk about, then there's a very good chance that you will also get lots of views with that idea. Okay, so that's all the advice I feel like giving right now. If you disagree with anything I said, you're probably wrong, but go ahead and do whatever you want. I don't really care. I know obviously it's not like my channel is hugely successful, but I do have another channel I used to post on where I got 1 million views on one video. So I do know a little bit about this stuff, but yeah, that's it. Have a nice day.